Hello, watchers and listeners, and welcome to a cross-genre episode of Northern Lights Books Author Interview Plunge. Today's guest is the beautiful Sharon Marchisello without her glasses. She is a mystery novelist. She's written Going Home, published through Sunbury Press, and has self-published a personal finance book, Live Cheaply, Be Happy, Grow Wealthy. No doubt explaining what she did with all that income from her mystery novel, Going Home. She also writes about personal finance on her blog, sharonmarchisello.blogspot.com. We'll have links to that on her interview page. In addition, you can find her on Smashwords, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads. As we used to say in seminary, thou movest, child, she's everywhere. And if you want to learn how to kill people and make money at it, between Going Home and Live Cheaply, Be Happy, Grow Wealthy, she is your source. Her current project is Secrets of the Galapagos. Here's an excerpt. Laurel tugged at my flipper and pointed. I pivoted through the stream of bubbles in time to glimpse a 6-foot hammerhead shark. Its flat head barely rippled the water. My heart pounded. Did we look like seals in our dark wetsuits? The guides said these Galapagos sharks were not dangerous unless provoked. But who knew when one might decide to add a little taste of tourist to its diet of fish and crustaceans? Nicely done. You can see, hear, and feel the environment as well as the narrator's responses to it. Good job. Everyone, please welcome Sharon Marchisello. Thank you, Sharon, for being here. I appreciate it. You're based out of Atlanta now?
Yes, I live in Peachtree City, which is actually a southern suburb of Atlanta.
I always thought Atlanta was Peachtree City, but very good.
Everything's called Peachtree.
Yeah. Shall we get right into the questions?
Sure.
Very good. Okay. Sharon, when did you decide to kill people for fun and profit? What I mean is mysteries and personal finance. I wouldn't have put those two together, and you have very well. How did that come about?
Well, I've always been into fiction. I've been writing fiction since I was a little girl, and I used to write more mainstream things. And I earned a master's in professional writing at the University of Southern California, and one of my professors suggested that, well, he read my first novel, and he said, maybe you should write something else. So I looked for the plot, I couldn't find it. And he was really big into genres, and he felt like to get published, you needed to be a genre. He was a big mystery fan, and I didn't really care for mysteries, so I looked for I tried to do a romance. My next book was kind of a romance, but I didn't do that very well because I couldn't really get into writing the formula. And that never got published either. And my third book, I got, when I was working at the airlines, I got an idea for a mystery. I was working the swing shift, and the airport was under construction. And I was going out to meet a flight one time, and everything was dark and creepy, and I was thinking, gosh, somebody could get killed out here and nobody would know. And that was kind of born the idea for a mystery. So I did write my first mystery. It's still unpublished. I had an agent for it for a while, but it's still on the shelf. It's called Murder at Gate 58A, and it takes place in the airline.
I love the title.
Maybe someday I'll pull it out. I've tried pulling it out a few times, and it was written back in the 80s, and there's a lot of anachronisms. There was a scene where the protagonist stops and makes a phone call from a phone booth.
Oh,
she would whip out herself.
Phone booth. Half of our audience is phone booth. What's
that? And they were still smoking on the airplanes. They were talking about smoking and non-smoking on the airplanes.
Oh,
so a lot of things.
Goodness.
And I suppose there's probably too many anachronisms in there. I would just probably leave it as a period piece now, a historical.
I feel ancient. Okay, thank you. Let me put my teeth back in for a second here.
But the one that we're mainly talking about today, the one that actually got published, which is actually the fourth novel that I wrote, it was called Going Home. And it was inspired by my mother's battle with Alzheimer's disease. And it kind of, when I was going through that, I thought, what would it be like to interview a witness or a suspect that, or maybe a witness to a murder or something like that, that had Alzheimer's that couldn't rely on her memory. And so that was where I got the seed of that. It opens, the daughter comes home to check on her mom who has Alzheimer's, and there she is standing over the dead body of her caregiver, and she can't give her a straight answer of what happened.
Wow.
So I used a lot of the behaviors from my mom, the conversations, kind of the conversations that go in circles, and you have a complete conversation, then 5 minutes later, she can't remember anything that happened, and you have to repeat everything. So that would be an interesting.
Well, definitely interesting. No, and that's that. I don't think I've ever encountered a mystery story where someone with Alzheimer's is the primary witness. What was that like to write that? You said it was based on your experiences with your mother. Was that a painful book to write?
Yes, it was. My mother died in 2001, and I started writing this book in 2003. So it had been a couple of years removed, and people that have read, a lot of people that have read the book can relate to. I didn't realize that Alzheimer's was as common as it is today, because so many people that have read it say that they had a relative or a friend, they knew somebody that had Alzheimer's, so they could really relate to my portrayal of the character. And some of the people that read it that had just recently lost somebody, like a mother or grandmother, somebody close to them to Alzheimer's, found it a little difficult to read. They enjoyed it, I mean, because it's basically, it's a whodunit. There's a lot of suspense, there's some humor, but you know, I do portray this mother with Alzheimer's, and it was hard in a way, but I think it was therapeutic in a way. Remember that, and you know, there is, like I said, there is some humor in the behavior. You have to. It's so serious, you have to laugh sometimes.
Oh yeah, sure. So that's going home. That has been published, and you're working on Secrets of the Galapagos. I shared a little bit. Excerpts will be available on our website. It's a good read, folks. When do you think that'll be out, and will that be self or traditionally published?
Well, I hope to have it traditionally published. I guess I finished the draft about a year ago, and I thought I was done, and it's been to beta readers, and I've gotten a lot of ideas. So it's gone about 3 drafts, and I've been pitching it around. So there's release date unknown.
Okay. Are you using an agent for that? You mentioned you had an agent.
I had an agent for my first book, but no, I didn't. And in fact, I sold Going Home directly to Sunbury Press without an agent. So I currently do not have an agent. If there are any agents listening.
So you're looking for an agent?
Yeah.
Okay, you find that an easier road then to go with an agent?
Well, the thing about an agent is they can get you to a bigger publisher, but then, you know, there are also some publishers that look at material that through unagented. But some of the problem with being a smaller publisher, you're not really as well received. You're not in the big bookstores. You don't get reviewed by, you don't get New York Times bestseller list or.
But your book is available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, online.
Right.
Okay.
But more online than anything else. I'm not going to have the big end cap in the bookstore.
Right.
Now the local Barnes & Noble carries it, but probably if you go to Barnes & Noble, most places, you will only be able to get it online, or they can order it, but it's not going to be out on the shelf for them. Okay,
and that is through Sunbury Press. So your experiences with them, I'm not sure if it's been good, has it been bad, a mix? You share that?
It's been pretty good. They are located in Pennsylvania, Mechanicsburg. Is, I guess, the closest town outside of Harrisburg. So they're not New York publisher, and they've been in business for, I think, 15 years. They celebrated their 10-year anniversary right after my book was published, because I went up there and got to meet the people, and they actually had a physical location then, and they had a bookstore. They've since closed that, and I think they're working out of their home, but they've been in business for a while, and they were publishing, 50 to 100 titles a year. So they're not that small, but they do a lot of different things, a lot of nonfiction. I think they do better in nonfiction and children's market. They have a very small niche for fiction.
Okay. So this makes me believe that you have to do a lot of self-marketing. Do you do a lot of self-marketing? What's the experiences with that?
Well, you do have to, and I think that's true unless you're James Patterson or Stephen King or something like that. I think any author, whether you're self-published or small publisher or even big publishers, I have some friends, author friends that in my Sisters in Crime group that have actually published with larger publishers, and they're still doing self-marketing as well. You've got to have a
crime.
Yeah. You've not heard of Sisters in Crime?
I think somebody I know up here in New England is involved, but it's not. Wow. Oh yeah, Sisters in Crime. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's a national organization, and it was founded. Actually, Sarah Paretsky was one of the founders of it, and it was to promote women mystery authors. And although today we have men are allowed to join as well. It's mostly women mystery authors, but we also like readers. There's a lot of people that just like to read in the crime genre, and that are members of Sisters in Crime, and of course most writers are readers as well. And now we allow men, but the original mission was to give women in the crime fiction field more recognition, make sure that we got the same chances at the big advances and the book reviews. And
I love the way you say that kind of dismissively. We now allow men, we have to. All right.
Yes, we do not discriminate.
You had mentioned that you worked in the airline industry, and I know that you're bilingual. So your globe hopping, it had a purpose. You've lived all over the U.S. You've lived in France, but it wasn't glamorous. Your globe hopping wasn't exactly glamorous. Your work with the airline industry. Can you tell us about that? How you went from working with the airlines? You have a master's in professional writing, and now you're.
Well, I actually got the master's in professional writing before I went to work for the airline, and I got when I finished school, I thought that was going to open the door to success for me, and I still didn't have a book published, and I didn't have a job, and I had one of my roommates had some friends that worked for Western Airlines. I was living in Los Angeles, and one day I got home and there was a message on the answer machine from one of his friends saying that Western Airlines was hiring reservations agents. And I thought, well, that sounds really good, get to travel all over the world and everything. So I want to do that. And so when he got home, I go, can I go too? So we ended up both going to, got interviewed. His friend took our resumes and we got called for an interview. And the first thing we had to do was take a typing test. And he failed the typing test and I passed. So I went on to the next stage. I think they had listening skills and some geography questions. And if you passed all the tests, then you got actually to a person where they interviewed you. And so we had come in the same car. So he had to go back to the lobby while waiting for me. And he was a really nice looking guy. He was an aspiring actor. That's really what he wanted to do. And the receptionist felt sorry for him sitting there forlornly. She said, well, you didn't do that badly on the typing test. You almost passed. Would you like to take it again? And so while he was waiting, she let him take it again. And so he passed. And so then he went on, and we both got hired. We got in the same class. He quit after 6 months, and I stayed 27 years. And And it was funny because the woman who interviewed me was looking at my resume, and she said, you know, you're just getting your master's in professional writing, and here you are, this is, you know, this reservations agent. But I know I know you're way overqualified for this job. She said, and I know you just want to do it for the travel benefits. And she said, but, you know, we need you, and I think you can do it, and I won't stand in your way, but you won't be here more than 2 years. And anyway, 27 years I stayed. And it was just, I did reservations for 3 years, then I worked at the airport, and then we wanted to move to Seattle, and to move to Seattle, I had to take a pay cut and work in cabin service where I cleaned airplanes. I drove the Lavazine, which is a little lav truck that hooks up to the airplane and dumps the labs. So
is this where Murder at Gate 58A came about?
That's it, yeah.
The lav truck?
Yeah, when I was working as a gate agent in Los Angeles, that's where I got the idea for Murder at Gate 58A. So I was writing that.
Nobody
I also
jumped into a lav truck there.
Okay. I also wrote a couple of screenplays too while I was in Los Angeles, and I even had an agent for one of my screenplays too. But it kind of came out at a bad time. It was about an off-road race down in Baja California, and the protagonist was gay. And what was there was a woman protagonist, and she was in love with this man, race car driver, tractor, but he turned out to be gay. But that was about the time when the AIDS epidemic hit, and really taboo
right, yeah.
have that subject matter. Nobody wanted to touch it. So that's on the shelf too.
Okay. You had mentioned with Secrets of the Galapagos going home that you had first readers and critiquers. What is that something you suggest to other authors, or is it something you just decided you needed? What was that?
Definitely. I think that you learn so much from putting your work in front of someone else's eyes. I can't imagine just writing something in a vacuum and then publishing it, because just, you know, to get somebody else's perspective, there's so many things that you miss, and, you know, things that you think make sense that don't make any sense at all. So I guess, when I was getting my master's in professional writing at USC, we did get some critique in some of our classes, but I also had a little outside critique group, and 3 guys, the core group was 3 guys and me, and they were brutal. And so I learned to take criticism and you can't, a lot of times what they say, you know, I developed a thick skin. I learned, you know, not to get my feelings hurt, to try to make something out of it and make it better. And especially if you see, if more than one person says the same thing about something. And sometimes what they're bothered by is not necessarily what's wrong. I mean, that's working, but there's something else in the background that's not working that you need to fix so that the scene will work. Or, you know, if they're saying this character is they're not behaving normally, not behaving realistically. There's something about the person's background that you need to share, or have some other incident in the thing where you can show that behavior.
Okay.
Make that character more believable.
Very good. You don't impress me. This is my way of seeing things, I guess. Some people are, you know, solitary writer. That's the image of the author. You're hammering on a keyboard. You have this single light bulb. You're chain smoking, and you have a glass of something. For me, it would be single malt scotch. For others, a glass of wine. I don't know, and that's probably a gender bias right there. What is your authoring experience like? Morning, evening? Do you get up at 2 a.m. and crank out 5,000 pages? Do you write before you go to bed? What is it for you?
Well, I guess pretty much morning now, but it can be different times of day. Whenever I probably get more done in the morning. When I was writing going home, I was working full time, and I would set my alarm for an hour earlier than I normally got up. So I would normally get up at 6 to be at work at 8. So I would set the alarm for 5, get up and write for an hour, and then at 6 I'd leave and take my shower and start getting ready to go to work. Leave the house at 7 by 8. Of course, during the day, sometimes you're thinking of things, or, after work, I'd go for a walk, and sometimes I'd be thinking of new scenes or working out something that wasn't working, so mulling it over. So I think you think about it all day.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to convince your spouse that you're writing when you're just staring at the wall and you're not actually typing something out. But really, it's true. You're thinking through your scenes. Occasionally I'll wake up in the middle of the night and get an idea and rush down to the computer and jot it down, but mostly not.
Okay. You traveled quite a bit. You've lived all over the U.S. And as I said before, you lived in France. What is item 1 on your bucket list? Where do you want to go, or what do you want to do? What's the thing that's still hanging out there, aside from getting a Pulitzer or Edgar Allan Poe, I guess, would be. I'm not sure what the mystery award would be.
I suppose a lot of travel destinations are on my bucket list. I haven't been to Antarctica yet, and haven't seen the Great Wall of China. I've been to China, but not to the Great Wall. I've been to Peru, but I haven't been to Machu Picchu. Those are some of the highlights. I've been to India, but I haven't been to the Taj Mahal. So those are kind of the big 3 monuments that are on a lot of bucket lists.
Yeah, I would say.
But yeah, as far as writing, I mean, I'd like to, of course, have something on the bestseller list.
Yes. Well, but it'll have to be number 2 because mine will be number 1.
Well, you can take turns.
We could swap off.
Right.
As long as it's up there for 2,000 weeks. You swap off. Okay. Okay. A more serious question: dogs or cats? Neither. Both. Why?
Well, I love both, but I've always had cats, and I have a cat now. When I was growing up, my dad didn't like dogs, so he never let us have a dog, but he let us have a cat. So I just grew up with cats, and they are easier to take care of. And when you travel a lot, it's a lot easier to leave a cat. A cat can stay home and have a neighbor come in and put food and water in her bowl, the litter box.
You blog on personal finance, and you write murder mysteries, which, and I'm still having trouble putting those 2 together. Which gives you more joy and why?
Well, writing fiction definitely gives me more joy. The personal finance was sort of an accident, really, because I don't have a finance background, but I've always been good with money. And I gave a speech in Toastmasters one time about some basic finance, and so people were just blown away. And it was just kind of on a whim. It's like, gosh, you could teach a course in this. And so a lot of the things that I just took for granted, basic good habits of personal finance, found a lot of people weren't doing. So that's kind of why I wrote that book, just sort of self-help. And then I figured I would do a blog to market it. And when I was struggling with whether to start the blog first or write the book first, because, if I had the blog, one or the other would give me credibility, but I had to start somewhere since I didn't have any finance background or anything like that. So I decided to write the book and put it out, and then I would do the blog. And after I put the book out, then I got an offer to come back to Delta Airlines as a contractor, which I made a lot more money as a contractor than I did on my book sales. So I didn't start the blog. So it was probably another 2 years before I actually started the blog. I published the book in 2013, and in 2015 I started writing the blog. not really every week. It's like every 2 or 3 weeks kind of that I do a post.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that consistent, but it's regularly enough where I've been writing fairly consistently since 2000, since the end of 2015. 2 years, I guess.
Very good. And
And
as sorry, go ahead.
well, I'm now in the process of updating the book. It was only released as an ebook on Smashwords, and I've found that most of my sales, even from with going home, come from Amazon, and it's not on Amazon. So I think that I'm probably going to. I'm rewriting the book, updating it, and we'll probably republish it. And the title, I think, was too long. That was about the time that Eat, Pray, Love came along, so that the three verbs in the title was popular. So anyway, now the new title is going to be Live Well, Grow Well, Live Well, Grow Wealthy, or Live Well, Grow Well.
Okay.
And I'll probably put it on Amazon.
Look forward to it. What is your biggest pet peeve about being an author? Aside from being interviewed.
No, I like being interviewed. I like the attention. I think a lot of people have the assumption that if you published a book, you're a millionaire, or you that you're making a killing at it, where very few authors are making that much money through their work. Most authors have to have another job, or they've got some sort of independent income.
Yep. In going home, you're writing about your experiences with your mother. What techniques do you use to describe your characters? How do you develop characters? Are they fictional, purely fictional? Are they historical? Are they based on people you've known, like your mom? And how does that go?
They're kind of a mix of each. Like the mother character is really based on my mom. I took some things about 10 years after I lost my mom. My mother-in-law came down with Alzheimer's too, and I was still working on going home. I think it was on about the 7th draft. So I got a little new material from, a little refresher from seeing that behavior. So some of the things are in there were from my mother-in-law. I'm sure a lot of my characters have a little bit of me in them, but they're not exactly like me. And a lot of the other characters are sometimes, a lot of them are composites of people that I know. There's very, very few characters are just ripped right from life, like somebody else. A lot of them are composites. Or sometimes, you need a certain character, and you just imagine. It just comes straight from the imagination.
Yep. Okay. How is your writing style? Is that different from other passions that you have, or is your writing, is that it? That's what you do. You have a cat. You must love your cat.
Yeah.
So how does writing mix with the rest of your life?
I don't know. It's always been a part of my life. Of course, I guess cat's always been a part of my life too. I think it's just a way of expressing myself. I think part of the reason that I was attracted to writing as a child was that I could create a world where I was in control, and I can make people that in the image of people I don't like, and I can make bad things happen to them.
I'm your friend.
I can identify with the heroine, and the heroine can succeed where I would fail, and it could say the right thing. Yes. Those snappy lines you wish you said, you could put them in the mouth of your character.
Okay, and I'm your friend. I like it. So don't get snappy with me. You earned a master's in professional writing. You had a core group which was 3 men who were nasty. Let's just face it.
Oh, they weren't nasty, but they just they didn't pull any punches. If they didn't like, they didn't try to make me think that my writing was wonderful.
Right, but
they thought it sucked. They said so.
right, but this wasn't the X-Men in the Danger Room type of thing. So what did you find most useful in writing, and what was the least useful or most destructive thing you were told about your writing?
I don't think that in that critique group, I don't really think that they weren't destructive. I mean, even though some of the things were not kind, they were true.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think it's, if you tell someone that something's not good and you don't say why, I think that, you know, that can be more hurtful. And that the thing about critique groups is you want to say, and saying that something is not working is a lot more helpful than just saying, oh, it's wonderful. You know, you know, it's sort of annoying to have friends that say, oh, it's wonderful, and they're afraid to tell you if they don't like something, if they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yes.
I went to a local critique group, which has gotten a lot better now. People are a lot better at saying what they think. But there were, when I first started going, there were people that were just so afraid of hurting anyone's feelings. And I remember this girl, you know, don't take this the wrong way, but I think you need a comma in the sentence. Okay, sure. You gotta bite your head off.
Okay, I this has been wonderful. I want to thank you for your time today. I got one more question for you, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. What question do you wish that someone would ask about you or your books or your blog, but nobody has?
Well, I guess, when's the movie coming out? And who's going to be producing the movie?
Sharon, I understand Spielberg has opted the right to the book, and Tom Hanks is going to be playing
the leading role.
He's going to be playing the shark.
Meryl Streep would be good with the mother character with Elsa.
Yeah.
That would be a challenging role for an actress, you know, probably that you know, pushing 70. So.
Yes.
Maggie Smith.
Ooh.
Baron, maybe those interested in that role.
I've
also written a screenplay too, so because I did do screenwriting at University of Southern California.
It's been an impressive life. Anything that I should have asked you that I forgot? Anything you want to add before we end the interview?
Well, you can buy the book on, this is Going Home.
Going Home, yes, on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. You can get it at the Sunbury Press website. Ask your local library to order it. Mm-hmm. Ask your local bookstore to order it.
And we will have links to all of those locations on our site, as well as to your blog. So definitely we're going to make sure that people know where they can find you. And we're going to be looking forward to Secrets of the Galapagos.
Someday.
Someday, you know, we'll be looking for the movie because Spielberg, as I say, is watching this, and he's, you know, very, very interested. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And please keep us in the Sharon Marchisello loop, so we'll know what's coming up for you and be able to let people know about that as well. Okay. Thanks again.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.